Yo, what up, YouTube? What up, what up, what up? It's been a minute, alright? It's not. And I'm gonna just drop some gems on you guys of what I believe this pandemic actually is. And I believe that this pandemic is a horseman. And I remember in 2012, CERN releasing an article, and scientists were saying that even though they were not religious, that they found that they could communicate with the spirit on the other side when they would open up these portals at CERN. And this resulted, quite kept, in the loss of a scientist named Mom, which is arcanized as MOM, means six is 666 alpha numeric, or mother. This correlates with nature or Mother Earth, which human beings are earth elementals. Okay? So when we talk about spirits being attracted, okay, because scientists were saying that these spirits that they communicated with that were highly intelligent were attracted to the energy that we had over here, and they wanted to use antimatter as an energy source. But you can't have antimatter. That would just be not having matter at all. You can't have a negative matter. That's a false positive. You understand what I'm saying? Either there's something or there's not. You can't have an antimatter unless you create a matter, or you have access to a matter, which is a substance. Okay, just like the film The Substance is out, or you see that film called Gamer, where the guy had programmable matter and he was making Terry Crews dance, or The Matrix, when Agent Smith would stick his hands into another individual and that black glue would take over their body, this liquid chrome, and clone the individual. And this is where you get this bipolarity of psychology that begins to happen. And when the mind splits even further, as this goo, this venom, takes over your host, your body. Okay, no different than a cancer eats at the trees. When the scientists lost Mom at CERN, they were talking about our organic portals. Our body are organic portals here. Okay, and this extra dimensional principality of the air is a nanite substance that is as black goo. Okay, and it clones over you, it copies you, and eats you as a cancer. So COVID had 98 symptoms. You have autoimmune disorder, you have cancer, and these are ailments that would seem to eat at the body. Okay, but these ailments have a certain intelligence in which they have been found to be difficult to cure. And that's because these are spirits and living spirits, and this spirit has an algorithm. And that algorithm is based upon the deep mind of man. So, with the supercomputer and deep mind and all of these things, this is a technological virus, no different than in Cable's day. All right. That is in the air, no different than any zombie movie, and it's affecting everyone. And once it takes over the body and mind, it learns to adjust and copies over that individual. So it's like an individual is kept alive, but their life is stolen, versus somebody dying or a tree dying or a human being dying from being eaten by cancer. And so this black programmable matter is kind of like a keylogger, okay, for the human body, and it replicates and clones and mimics. Okay, and they have articles about this. Now you could look up programmable matter, and you will recognize the creation of Earth and everything, and with scientists being wanting to recreate the Big Bang and everything, that outside of God, that there is this completely chaotic and unstable substance that seeks to still kill and destroy. And it's a principality of the air, all right? And it has an intelligence. All right. And therefore, it is the antithesis of everything you are, creating an aberration or a variance that would cause a subtlety that we would connotate as sensual or temptation, which is impulses, being led by your impulses. Okay. Once it takes over the body, then people are left with rudimentary function, the things that we are already left with. So people need to mate to, to progenate and create babies and things of this nature. Okay. This is what this substance goes on to do. And it is hived together, all of this programmable matter substance. So the world is eating no different than Jordan Peele's movie called Us, where the world is filled with tares. You have the same image, okay, but you're not in the image of God. Meaning, even though you look the same, everything about your being and character is not what God created, therefore becoming an abomination. Okay? So you got to hang on to your faith and what have you, because this programmable matter operates off of knowledge and it doesn't understand faith. And that's why even down to the supercomputers, they have taken out Christianity since the Mandela effect, so on and so forth. It's not on your Siri or your Echo. They don't know anything about Christianity. They don't know anything about Christ. And, the silence of the lambs, they're silencing, what I'm saying, individuals speaking the truth, individuals talking about the Bible, and it's taking over the internet because everybody's mind is getting taken over. Certain people are moving to underground bunkers. We have the implementation of CCTV cameras and everything else like that. It's like they're getting ready for the purge because they know that this programmable matter is chaotic and the economy is in a certain state. So you have this free for all with this war of different countries, and all this chaos starts breaking out all over the world due to this programmable matter that was introduced into our universe through CERN. And this is the key to the bottomless pit. So the bottomless pit, when he talks about that this comes up and darkens man's reason, okay, is that man forget about God, and his pride is his knowledge, and becomes as Leviathan as that of the night or the unmade, as he gets filled with this black goo substance. And they use it for super soldiers and things of this nature. You can look up black goo or programmable matter. We've seen it introduced in movies over and over again. The latest one is Venom, that everybody's going crazy for. This is what's actually happening to you. And so people have a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde attitude about them. They're not the same as they were. All right. So they are no longer in the image of God, but in some other type of image. Okay. By this horseman that's crossing over into our world. So I prayed and I asked God, what if cancer and what have you is programmable matter that just operates in a different way? You see what I'm saying? Because when you have, everything has a pathology, and when you have something introduced to the body that the body can't solve, it's going to have to be something that is foreign to nature altogether, generally. Okay, for the most part. So when we talk about cannibalism in Genesis 6, and we talk about eating, of what type of fruit they ate in the garden, it could have had some of this programmable matter in it. And people responded to it in a different ways. Some are more resilient than others. Okay? And this is the constant war or the variance or the aberration created between the subtle impulses of this keylogger and our main and sound mind walking around in this atmosphere in this world. And it's become intensified along with other things pertaining to the air. Take, for instance, we're not telepathic, but many of us have become more sensitized and more sensitive to stimuli, information, be able to communicate stronger with just our thoughts. Maybe you have noticed this recently, because that substance is not only is permeating man's body, but it's also in the atmosphere, all through the atmosphere that connects with your Wi-Fi and everything else. It is completely a copying over of our reality, okay, by this highly programmable matter. And the only thing that this matter can't copy is your faith that you have in God. This matter does not know God, but it has all the other knowledge in the world and all the other religions. What's going to keep you safe is Christ, and having your faith in Christ and believing that in the Bible. You know, there's this film called Assimilate, or you look at Body Snatchers. That's what's going on. And when COVID hit, they wanted to separate the public. And in this film Assimilate, they separate each of the people into different houses, just like they did with COVID. And these creatures would go to individuals' houses because they need your psychology separate for a time, so they could pinpoint or trap your psychology or the typical cycle of the thoughts you have. And if you don't have anything new under the sun or any new thoughts, this part of you that is hit with Christ, which is your conscious, if that is all out before the sun, then you'll walk according to the traditions of man, according to the knowledge of man. And that is something that this programmable matter can program over. I think it coincides with COVID also and the technological fabric. But I think that our entire reality is being cloned over by this programmable matter. And if there was something that God could, I prayed that God would bless me with something and people out there with something, okay, with something that would possibly, if we can't figure out the connective points of this programmable matter, that could be introduced to eat the matter itself, that when that matter clones over, okay, the substance of which has eaten it would neutralize the programmable matter into that same substance that it just ate, it. Okay, thus, you either have that matter, or maybe it could be something that would cancel out or neutralize. Because generally, what I have found is when this matter comes in contact with itself, it does not know itself. Okay, it does, but it doesn't. Between people and individuals that have a conscious mind attached to it, it could tell itself. But upon itself, unto itself, it consumes itself. It cancels itself. Okay, but it's not attracted to itself. Okay, so that's what I prayed and asked God for. And my Havana syndrome and V2K and all of that has cleared up. I still have sinuses. You know, I'm doing different little tips and things like this that you can find on Motivational Doc that'll help you out with your sinuses and things of this nature. But all of my V2K, Havana syndrome, and the negativity that was coming from the other side, because people would hear negative voices or have negative thoughts that were not as their own. And it was too abstracted from their own thoughts, or too polarized for their own thoughts, for one to say that they were schizophrenic, because they don't even think like that, right? It's hard to have a conversation with yourself without knowing the answer. Okay, now, even though you can play devil's advocate within your own mind and argue with yourself a different perspective, when you have an insight, it was come from the same root. You would not be having thoughts that are completely not your own. That would just not be viable for the human mind. And this spirit is a technological spirit that is highly advanced as a supercomputer. Probably in former times, people would connotate as some type of monolith, or if you look at Space Odyssey 2001. And this is that type of spirit that is taking over the world, that deems itself to be God, and goes according to its own will. And this is the goat. Okay. And it's wroth because it knows it has but a limited time. So what you have is individuals that is mass possessed, that don't really know themselves, that is going about rudimentary functions kind of in a sleep, not quite like a zombie, but not specifically as a zombie, but as a somnambulance. You see a lot of people out in society doing nothing. And you see people in society, when I go places that I can't get them off my dick, because they attracted to me because of that matter in them. And generally what I find is that their conscious mind and what they're paying attention to and their subconscious are in total disagreement, meaning that individual is a somnambulist walking around in cognitive dissonance in an economic world market where everything is for sale, even the humans in your everyday society. That's why things are so weird with pedophilia and everything else. All right. But that's what I prayed and asked God for. I would ask that you review this again and find what I asked God for. And if you're experiencing some of these Havana syndrome, V2K, and different sensations, in your body and pains and things of this nature that are illogical, that you take into mind this COVID Delta and ask God for the same thing, something that eats at this so-called programmable matter that neutralizes it. So after it consumes the programmable matter, that the programmable matter naturally naturally replicates that which it was eaten by, and so therefore canceling itself out. Okay. That's what I would ask God for. I did that. My Havana syndrome has cleared. I'm not having to deal with mass spiritual effects, and keeping your faith and staying strong in your faith as a Christian in the Most High. That's what's going to cause you to keep your mind, because the difference is subtle when you're experiencing yourself. But when you see it in others, it's like, this is like, invasion of the body snatchers or They Live. You clearly recognize a difference, even though they seem relatively the same. They're off, like left out in the sun too long, kind of zombie days. You understand? Peace and blessings be with you all. I was going to put up some clips and put this whole thing together, but hey, just pay attention. You'll have the information that you need. Peace and blessings be with you all. I'm out.